Donald Trump ran for president on a hardline immigration stance. He promised to deport millions of undocumented immigrants. Trump vowed to build a wall on the US-Mexico border. He also pledged to crack down on sanctuary cities. Trump's rhetoric resonated with voters who felt the system was rigged against them. They believed that undocumented immigrants were taking jobs, driving down wages, and committing crimes. Trump's promise to deport millions of people was ambitious, to say the least. There are an estimated 11 million undocumented immigrants living in the United States. Deporting them all would be a logistical nightmare. It would also be incredibly expensive. The cost of deporting one person is estimated to be between $10,000 and $20,000. Deporting 11 million people would cost hundreds of billions of dollars. Deportation is a costly endeavor. It requires significant resources, manpower, and infrastructure. From detention centers to transportation, the expenses quickly add up. ICE, the agency responsible for deportations, faces a massive funding gap. The agency's budget is already stretched thin. Congress has been reluctant to allocate more money for deportations. The Lake and Riley Act, passed in 2025, placed additional financial burdens on ICE. This law mandates increased oversight and legal representation for detained immigrants. The cost of deportation flights alone is staggering. With limited aircraft and rising fuel prices, each deportation flight carries a hefty price tag. Sanctuary cities have become a flashpoint in the immigration debate. These cities limit their cooperation with federal immigration enforcement. They argue that it's not their job to enforce federal immigration law. Trump has vowed to crack down on sanctuary cities. He has threatened to withhold federal funding from them. However, the legality of this move is questionable. Sanctuary cities argue that they are making their communities safer. They say that undocumented immigrants are more likely to report crimes if they are not afraid of being deported. Opponents of sanctuary cities argue that they are harboring criminals. They say that these cities are making it more difficult for ICE to do its job. The immigration court system is overwhelmed. There is a massive backlog of cases. This backlog makes it difficult to deport people quickly. The average wait time for a hearing is over 2 years. Some people have been waiting for over 5 years. This backlog is due in part to a shortage of judges. The Trump administration has tried to speed up the deportation process. It has limited the use of asylum. It has also made it more difficult for people to qualify for relief from deportation. However, these changes have been challenged in court. The backlog in immigration courts is likely to continue for the foreseeable future. Section 5. Diplomacy and Deportation, a balancing act. Deporting someone is not as simple as putting them on a plane. The United States must have a place to send them. This requires cooperation from other countries. Some countries are reluctant to take back their citizens who have been ordered deported from the United States. This can create diplomatic tensions. The Trump administration has taken a hard line with countries that refuse to cooperate. It has threatened to impose visa sanctions on them. However, these threats have not always been effective. The United States needs the cooperation of other countries if it wants to deport people effectively. Section 6. Public opinion, a divided nation. Public opinion on deportation is divided. Some Americans believe that all undocumented immigrants should be deported. Others believe that there should be a path to citizenship for those who meet certain requirements. A 2024 poll found that 55% of Americans support deporting all undocumented immigrants. However, there is a partisan divide on this issue. Republicans are much more likely than Democrats to support deporting all undocumented immigrants. This partisan divide makes it difficult to find common ground on immigration reform. The debate over deportation is likely to continue for many years to come. It is a complex issue with no easy answers. Section 7. Executive orders and policy changes. Since taking office, Trump has signed a number of executive orders and implemented policy changes related to immigration. These actions have had a significant impact on undocumented immigrants. One of Trump's most controversial moves was his decision to end DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program. DACA protected young undocumented immigrants from deportation. Trump also implemented a zero-tolerance policy at the border. This policy led to the separation of thousands of families. Images of children being separated from their parents sparked outrage. The Trump administration has also made it more difficult for people to claim asylum. Asylum seekers are now being forced to wait in Mexico while their cases are processed. Section 8. The human cost of deportation. Deportation can have a devastating impact on families and communities. Many undocumented immigrants have lived in the United States for years. They have built lives here. They have children who are U.S. citizens. Deporting them tears families apart. Deportation can also have a negative impact on the economy. Undocumented immigrants contribute billions of dollars to the U.S. economy each year. They also work in many industries that are facing labor shortages. Deporting them could hurt the economy. Section 9. Can Trump deliver on his promise? Trump's promise to deport millions of undocumented immigrants is unlikely to be fulfilled. There are simply too many obstacles. The cost of deporting millions of people would be astronomical. The logistics of carrying out such a massive deportation effort would be daunting. There is also significant opposition to mass deportation. Many Americans believe that it would be cruel and inhumane. The Trump administration has made it more difficult for undocumented immigrants to live in the United States. However, it is unlikely to succeed in deporting them all.